Are we ready for the jury? Okay, we ready? Yeah.
Before he takes the witness back,
Okay.
Your Honor, you'll be pleased, we have that second order fully
I
endorsed.
am very pleased.
Yes,
I'll put it in
both
my-
of them are completed.
That's great. I'll have an entry for my diary. Won't you, Mr. Murphy? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, yes, sir? Yes, we're ready. All right. If we can just be seated and we're ready to start again. Okay, yes, Mr. Chu?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon again, Ms. Dembrowski. I'm told that both you and I need to speak a little closer to our microphones.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank
Okay.
you. And when we took the break, I think you had just testified that the next time you had seen Ms. Heard was when she had just returned from Australia.
Yes.
What, if anything, did you discuss with Ms. Heard when she returned from Australia?
Excuse me, we met for dinner a late dinner, and she was telling me that she and Johnny had had a fight in Australia, and I was trying to talk to her about the idea that kind of fighting is not normal. It's too much, you know. It's not okay. But she told me that I needed to basically get down off my cross and mind my own business. She said that Johnny liked that she was feisty. You know, she was feisty, and then he loved it. And that Jerry Judge and I needed to stay out of her marriage. So that was the basic conversation.
Did you respond at all when Ms. Heard told you to get off your cross?
I just kept saying that fighting is not normal. This kind of fighting is not normal.
How close were you to Ms. Heard when you were having this conversation?
We were right next to each other, right? Like right here.
Did you see any marks or any discoloration on her face?
No.
Now, Ms. Dembrowski, I'd like to shift gears again and ask you about the period in April and May of 2016. If you could please let us know, as of April 2016, what was the state of your mother's health?
Excuse me. Mom had been, she had been in the hospital for quite some time, and like a long, steady pace from November. So by April, she was, we knew that she was towards the end of her life. So that's what April basically was, and it went into May. In May, we gathered everybody to come say goodbye to her.
How often, if at all, did you visit your mother in April 2016?
She was in the hospital, so I was with her pretty much every day. I was a 24/7 when I wasn't, at the office or something,
Did you ever see Johnny at the hospital?
Yes.
How often did you see Johnny at the hospital in April 2016?
I don't know how often I saw him. I mean, he would come and see her, regularly. Even before that, when there was a period we were trying to help her communicate, and he, brought in, different type tools, pens, pencils, drawing, crayons, just to try to help her communicate. He came as often as he could. He was there quite a bit.
And when you said you called the family together in May, would you please explain what you meant?
We were told by the doctors that Mom was at a point where there was nothing else that we could do for her, and so that we should start calling anybody that wanted to, come and spend a little bit of time and say their goodbyes. So we did that. We did that in May. But,
And moving ahead to May 19, 2016, what was your mother's condition that day?
she was basically in a coma. She was medicated and just on machines, life support, where it was slowly going away on May 19th.
How do you know that?
I was with her.
Did you see your brother in the hospital that day?
Yes.
What happened the next day, May 20th, 2016?
Well, Mom passed away that morning. We had all the family was there. Johnny was there with his kids until the wee morning hours of May 20th. My kids, my sister, we were all there spending our last bits of time, and everybody else had gone home. And Mom passed away probably a few hours after that, maybe 5-6 hours after that.
Who was with your mother when she passed?
I was.
Who, if anyone, told Johnny that your mother had passed?
Sorry.
Take your time.
I did. I called him, and I called my our other siblings to tell them.
And I'm sorry, I know this is painful. How did Johnny react when you told him that your mother had passed?
Well, he was sad, but there was there's a relief that suffering is done. So he was mostly trying to make sure that I was okay, and I was going to leave and not stay there and sort of take on everything by myself.
So he asked about how you were doing.
Oh, yes, that became quite a big topic. Yes.
Ms. Dembrowski, did you see Johnny the next day, Saturday, May 21, 2016?
I did. I'd gone to his house the night we lost Mom. I think we all kind of gathered our children, right? And I had my sister with me, so I had driven her back on the Saturday, and we were going to go to the funeral home. So I was, while I was waiting for her, I went to go check on Johnny and see if he was okay, and wanted to go.
And did you check on Johnny Saturday morning, the 21st?
Yes, I went to see him because he was. We had talked about maybe he would also go to the funeral home, but when I got there, he seemed upset because he and Amber had been fighting.
What else happened when you first met with your brother on the morning of the 21st when you were talking about going to the funeral home?
I went to go see if he was going to go with us. I got there, he was upset. Excuse me, because they were fighting. I got upset because of the day that was chosen to fight. But I went ahead and left and went to the funeral home with my sister, and then came back that evening.
Why were you upset about their fighting on that day in particular?
We had just lost our mom the day before, so I feel like that, you know, there might be the need for a little compassion, no fighting on that day.
Did Johnny end up going with you to the funeral home that day?
No, I went ahead and went, and he was gathering his stuff because he had to go pick up some items because he was going to go on tour.
Did you see Johnny again that day once you left him to go to the funeral home?
Yeah, I came back that evening. I came back. I was taking care of my sister for a bit, and then before I left to go home, I stopped at his house to make sure that he was okay, you know, and I saw him then.
And what happened when you went over to see that he was okay?
He was talking to a couple of people. I saw him briefly. He seemed to be all right, and I spoke to Jerry Judge, and they had just come back from him picking up items down at the downtown at the loft.
So when you met him the second day, that time, strike that, when you met him the second time that day on May 21, did you meet with him at his Sweetser house or at the ECB?
No, I went to the Sweetser house. He had gone down to the penthouse to pick up some of his stuff because he was going to be leaving, you know, to go on tour. And I just stopped by after they had just gotten back.
And as of that time, the evening of May 21, your mother had just passed. What plans, if any, had been made for a funeral service for your mother?
We hadn't made any plans for a funeral service. We wanted to wait until we could get, you know, all the friends and family, because we weren't expecting the date necessarily. But we wanted to wait till we can get all friends and family to come together to have more of a dinner, like a celebration like Mom would want at her favorite place. So we waited. We decided to schedule it like a month or so out instead of immediate.
So you had referred to your brothers having plans to go on tour that next week, obviously not knowing that his mother was going to pass.
Right.
What, if any, other formal events had been planned for that next week before he was going on tour?
Well, he had the premiere for Alice that was on the Monday night. Mom passed on Friday, and the premiere was Monday night. And then he was going to take a flight after that, immediately after the premiere. He had to get on a plane to go to New York to meet the band and go on to Europe.
And when you say Alice, just so the jury may understand, if you could please explain to them what Alice is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Alice, and I'm so sorry right now. I don't know if it's Alice Through the Looking Glass, maybe was that one's name, or the Alice in Wonderland Disney series, where he played Hatter. And
so that premiere for Alice in Wonderland was going to be on Monday, And what day was Mr. Depp planning to go on tour with his music band?
He had to be there Tuesday morning. So we had to schedule it. It was very tight. We scheduled a plane for him immediately after the premiere. He would get on the plane.
So he was expected to leave on Tuesday. So how long was he supposed to be on tour?
I believe it was a couple of months, something like that.
Going back to the premiere, how, if at all, did your mother's passing affect the premiere of Alice in Wonderland?
We didn't let anybody know that Mom had passed away. We kept that really close to just our, just family and friends, because he had to go do the premiere, and with the premiere he's on the carpet, and on the carpet he does interviews, and it didn't feel right on many levels to have him where people knew that Mom had passed away, and while he's trying to do interviews to sort of give their condolences and their sympathies and all of that. So we kind of kept it just with us so that it wouldn't become a worldwide thing, and he could just do what he was supposed to do and do his job. And
Did you think he could handle hearing all that sympathy at the premiere?
I didn't think he should handle it. I thought it would be very hard on him. It would be very hard, question after question and condolences.
Did there come a time when Ms. Heard filed for divorce from your brother?
Yes.
When was that?
I learned that she had filed on the Tuesday morning. After that premiere, the Tuesday morning, I was at the funeral home and I got a call from the attorney to let me know that she had filed.
Where was Johnny when you learned that Ms. Heard had filed for divorce?
He was already in New York and getting ready to travel to Europe for the tour.
How did you react initially when you heard from Mr. Depp's attorney that Ms. Heard had filed for divorce?
I mean, I think understandably, the timing of this, it made me sick, actually. It really made me feel ill. It made me sad, frustrated. I can't even find the word to describe how I felt when I heard that the divorce was filed the day after, while I'm at the funeral home.
You didn't think the timing of Ms. Heard's filing was appropriate?
I did not. I thought something like that might have been able to wait.
Did there come a time when you learned that Ms. Heard had also filed for a restraining order against Johnny?
Yes. Yes, I think I heard that also from the attorney. I believe the day before. It was a Thursday, I think. I learned that one.
So this was 2 days after your brother had left for New York?
Yes. Yes, because I was shocked at that. I was shocked at that, and concerned that he was out of town and didn't know if he needed to be there. He was gone, and I was asking the attorney, and they said, no, he doesn't have to be there. No one has to be there. Amber won't be there. No one will be there, just attorneys. It's a very simple process.
Did Johnny attend the restraining order hearing?
No, he was not in town. He wasn't in the country.
Did you see any press coverage of the restraining order hearing?
Yes, I did.
Would you please tell the jury what you saw or read?
Objection calls for hearsay.
Not asking for the proof of what was in the articles. It's a present sense impression.
Relevant. Why is it relevant?
All right, I'll sustain it to hearsay and relevance.
Okay. Did you see was there press coverage of the hearing?
There was a tremendous amount of press coverage.
Did you read any of it?
I did read some of it. I saw some of it.
Putting aside the truth or falsity of what you saw, what did you see?
Relevance
Why is that relevant?
and hearsay.
Was the
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question. Okay.
How did you feel when you read the press?
Relevance. How the witness felt is irrelevant.
What's the relevance? Mr. Shea?
I think it's relevant to her testimony, Your Honor, but I can move on.
Okay, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Moving ahead 2 years in time, did you see Ms. Hurd's Washington Post op-ed when it was published in December 2018?
Yes.
What did you think Ms. Hurd's op-ed was about?
Relevance.
It's entirely relevant. They're trying to argue somehow that people didn't understand what the op-ed meant. We heard an opening where there was.
I want you to approach,
Yes, Your Honor.
please.
Ms. Dembrowski, have you had any discussions with your brother about the op-ed?
Yes.
Object to anything after the yes is hearsay.
I'm not sure if it is or not.
It's a yes or no question.
Okay, all right, next question.
As Mr. Depp's brother and as his personal manager, do you have any understanding how the publication of the op-ed has affected your brother's career?
Objection, foundation, Your Honor, and hearsay.
I don't know if it's
You-
hearsay.
I apologize, Your
Yeah,
Honor.
that's fine.
But she's worked with her brother for
I'll
several
allow that,
decades.
but let's see where the answer goes.
You may answer.
I'm sorry, would you mind asking it again?
Do you have an understanding of how the publication of the op-ed has affected your brother's career?
Yes. The op-ed, is written with the way it was written, the wordings within the op-ed make it very clear of a time frame.
Objection, Your Honor.
Get the director to answer that question again. Maybe you should ask it again.
How has the publication of Ms. Heard's op-ed, putting aside for a moment its relationship to your brother, its references to your brother, how has it affected his career?
I believe there's a negative effect on anyone's career when there's accusations, as there have been.
How has it affected him personally?
Objection, Foundation.
She's his sister, Your Honor.
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Personally, I know he doesn't want people to feel that he could ever be that type of person, which he isn't. And to know that actually that is something that is attached to him now, which trickles down to his children, where I think that part, more than anything, is the part that has bothered him, the fact that his children have to, have this in their life.
Ms. Dembrowski, do you believe that your brother physically abused Ms. Heard?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance, Foundation.
I'll sustain the objection.
Do you believe that Ms. Heard is a public figure representing domestic violence?
No, I don't. I believe the opposite.
Excuse me. I'll sustain the objection.
Thank you, Your
Thank
Honor.
you. You can strike that answer, please. Thank you.
As his sister and as his personal manager for decades, are you aware of any occasion on which any woman other than Ms. Heard has ever accused your brother of any type of physical abuse?
Objection, Foundation, hearsay.
No, I'll allow the answer.
No.
How has Ms. Heard's op-ed impacted your life?
Objection, relevance.
What's the relevance?
Thank you, Your Honor. That's all I
Okay.
have right now.
All right. I'll withdraw a question. Okay. All right. Cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Ms. Dembrowski.
Good afternoon.
So I believe we covered some of this, but just want to make sure. So you're employed at a company your brother owns, right?
Yes.
It's called Infinitum Nile?
Yes.
Is that right? And it's Mr. Depp's production company?
Yes.
And you're the president of that company, right?
Yes.
And that is your only source of income, correct?
I have other projects that I work on the side.
It's your only job, right?
It's my full-time job, yes.
Right. And job-wise, you don't have any other sources of income other than Infinitum Nile, right?
Other projects, I have the opportunity with other projects to make more money.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, may I approach?
All right. If you could just show counsel what
Sure.
you're approaching with.
It's just a copy of your deposition.
All right. You're just giving. I think he's just giving copies, Mr. Chu. Oh, I assume it wouldn't be. Okay. Thank you. Yes, please.
Ms. Dembrowski, do you remember giving a deposition in this case?
Yes,
And just a couple months ago, right?
I believe so, yeah.
And you remember before you started that deposition being under oath, right?
Yeah,
Okay. And you swore to tell the truth?
yeah,
And you were asked questions by counsel for Ms. Hurd, and you gave answers, right?
yes.
Could you please take a look at page 19 of that deposition, transcript in front of you?
I'm sorry. Okay.
And do you see on page 19, line 8 through 10, you were asked a question, do you have any other sources of income other than from Infinitum Nile? And you answered no, job-wise, no.
Right,
Did you see that?
I do,
And was that testimony correct?
yes.
Okay. Right.
But it's the same as what I said today.
Now, you have a huge financial interest in your brother's career, right? The money that Infinitum Nile makes comes from money that Mr. Depp makes, correct?
It hasn't always historically, no.
What else does it come from?
We've had deals with other entities, companies.
And for the most part, the better your brother does in his career, the more money Infinitum Nile makes, though, correct?
I don't think it's exactly like that, no.
And you have your brother has done projects that Infinitum Nile has been the production company for, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And you have a financial interest in that company, correct?
I'm an employee.
Are you employed by his other companies as well?
I'm employed by Infinitum Nile.
Are you employed by the other companies that your brother has?
No,
Where do you receive your paycheck from? Infinitum Nile?
Infinitum Nile.
And you have a financial interest in how Infinitum Nile performs financially, correct?
I have a salary that I get, so that's not a financial interest if you're asking if I get a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
No,
You wouldn't consider salary financial interest? Is that your testimony?
I consider it a salary, yes, but it sounds like you're asking something different. I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, so the bottom line is you draw a salary from Infinitum Nile,
Yes,
and that's your brother's production company, correct?
yes,
Now, you feel protective of your younger brother, always have, right?
yes.
And you testified earlier today about Mr. Depp's reactions to some of your mother's anger growing up.
Mm-hmm.
How old was Mr. Depp during the periods you were talking about? Like when he was a kid? Is that basically what you were talking about?
The reactions to Mom's anger began as when we were children, and we've had the same reaction always, was to leave.
Right, and when you were testifying earlier about Mr. Depp's reaction being to leave, you were referring to when he was, before you left the house, when he was a kid, right?
Yes, but we left the house not too far apart from each other, but yes.
When Mr. Depp would leave as a child during the times when your mother was angry at him, was he addicted to drugs back then?
No,
Was he addicted to alcohol?
no.
You testified a little bit about Mr. Depp's former partner, Vanessa Paradis. You were friends with Vanessa, right?
It was a family, so.
Right. You considered her family,
Yeah,
Right.
she was part of the family, yes.
right? And you were friendly with her?
Yes,
You liked her?
yes.
You were happy that your brother was with her?
I was happy that my brother was happy.
Yeah. And you didn't want to see him split up from Vanessa, did you?
You know what, I wanted both of them to be happy. It didn't matter to me if they split up or not.
You were devastated when they split up, weren't you?
I don't think I was devastated.
Were you happy about it?
No, I wanted my family to be okay.
What were your emotions when you learned that your brother was splitting from Vanessa?
If I had to say, I was probably, a little sad for both of them, but beyond that, I don't really recall big emotions.
And you were sad because you were losing her as part of what you just testified was your family, right?
No,
You weren't sad about that?
no.
Now, on May 21st, 2016, you were asked some questions about that, and I know your mother's passing must have been very tough, so I'm not going to ask specific questions about that. I'm going to ask questions about the next day just to make sure that I had your testimony right. Can you remind me, you said you saw your brother the morning of May 21st?
I stopped by there at some point in the daytime, in the early part of the day.
Approximately what time?
I honestly don't remember.
Was it before lunch?
I don't remember the timing. It was just daytime.
It was daytime. And you testified that when you stopped by there for the first time that day that you were upset because it seemed like he and Amber had been fighting. Is that what you said?
I said that they had been arguing. And I've said that I didn't love that they were arguing on. It was a horrible day to argue on.
And that was, your testimony was that you were upset that they had been arguing when you stopped by that during the daytime, right? Okay. Now you have no understanding of any of Amber or Mr. Depp's communications leading up to May 21st, correct?
I don't know that I have a lot of that, no.
Okay. But your testimony is that when you stopped by during the daytime on May 21st, that they had been fighting and that made you upset. Is that right? I'm just trying to understand what you testified to.
It's not that it made me upset. I found it upsetting.
Did you ever become aware that they hadn't actually seen each other or communicated at all before he came over at 8 p.m. on May 21st?
Foundation.
She's testified that she said that they were fighting earlier in the day. I'm asking her if she ever became aware that they hadn't actually seen each other or talked that day.
All right, I'll allow the question. Just go ahead.
I'll ask it again. Did you ever become aware that Amber and Mr. Depp hadn't seen each other or talked that day before he came to the Eastern Columbia building the evening of May 21st?
No, I just know that what I understood was that they had a fight, whether it was over the phone or I don't know. They were arguing.
Now, when your mother was in the last days of her life in the hospital, Amber visited her, right?
Amber did come one time by herself, if that's what you're referring to. She did come one time, shortly before Johnny was also coming.
And she visited her actually more than one time, correct?
I don't recall her visiting on her own more than one time, no. I remember her coming one time because I didn't know she was coming. And Johnny was actually also coming.
Right.
So they ended up there together.
I guess I'm a little confused because you just testified that she only visited one time.
Alone. This is what I'm saying. I only remember the one time alone, where she showed up alone. I only remember one time. And Johnny came shortly after she was there.
And other times she visited with Johnny or other people, is that right?
She visited with Johnny sometimes.
During the time that Amber and Johnny were together, you became aware that he was using drugs and alcohol excessively, correct?
All right.
Your Honor, she's testified to what she observed during their relationship. I think it's within the scope.
No, I'll overrule the objection. You can ask the question. Go ahead. Did you want to ask the question again?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
During the time that Amber and Johnny were dating, did you become aware that he was using drugs or alcohol excessively?
I became aware that he had been drinking, and during the time they were dating, I became aware of, at one point, a certain medication, yes.
And you formed the opinion that not only had he been drinking, but that he was drinking excessively, correct?
I don't know that I formed excessively, but he was drinking.
You became aware that he was using booze, right?
I knew he was drinking.
And you knew he was using cocaine, right?
I never saw him do that, so
You became aware that he was using cocaine, correct?
I never saw him use anything like that. I became aware of people saying that.
And you became so concerned about that that you told your brother to stop using cocaine, correct?
I don't know that I remember telling him to stop using cocaine. I think I might have told him anything that he was doing, he should stop doing.
Heather, can you pull up Exhibit 214, please? Your Honor, I'll obviously move for admission before it's published to the jury.
That's fine.
Just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be on their screen. Can you flip it? Just trying to figure out how to rotate this, Your Honor.
If it's coming from her computer screen, you have to rotate it on there. I mean,
I figured.
all this is
poking
doing
at
is
the
mirroring
screen.
whatever was on the computer screen. There's nothing we can. All right.
Sorry for the delay, Your Honor. Appreciate your patience.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, the issue is what's on the screens,
Okay.
not on
All
the
right.
laptop, so that's the difficulty.
Okay. I don't know. Do you want to unplug it and plug it back in just to see? To the system?
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, I think we have it.
When you turn it off and on, it works at everything.
That's right. That's the secret. All right. That looks better. Ms. Dembrowski, I'd like to direct your attention to the four texts in the middle of the page. If you look in the from column, there's a name that says Christi Dembrowski and it has a number. Is that your number?
Yes.
And are those texts from you to your brother, Johnny Depp?
Yes.
And those texts were sent on or about February 5th, 2014?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 214.
Any objection to 214?
Can I just say something?
No,
though?
just wait, ma'am. Just wait for a
I'm
question.
sorry.
Yes, sure.
Apologize for the delay, Judge.
All right, so you're moving in 214, we'll receive it redacted? That's
Yes, Your Honor.
correct? Okay. Over objection, that's fine. And you wanted to publish just the redacted parts, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, that's fine. Right now, you just have the dates up. Is that what you want to start with?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you can publish
Thank
that
you.
to Jerry. Okay.
Ms. Dembrowski, I just, because we can only show part of this page, do you see that these, you just testified these were text messages between you and Mr. Depp, right? And do you see that these text messages were sent on February 5th, 2014?
Yes.
The bottom three? Okay. And those bottom three, you just looked at when we saw the whole page, and I know it's a little cumbersome for the jury not seeing that, but you testified that the bottom three were text messages from you to your brother, right?
Yes.
Okay. Heather, could you just scroll to the right? Please. That's good. Thank you. So on February 5th, 2014, you sent 3 texts to your brother. You sent one that said, stop drinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said one that said, stop Coke, right?
Yes.
So I assume you weren't talking about the soft drink, right?
It doesn't appear to be.
You were talking about cocaine, correct?
I don't know what these are in reference to, so I remember they brought this up at my deposition, and these are something that they're. I don't know I don't know if there's more context to them. I don't know what they're in reference to. I know what they say, but I don't know what they're in reference to.
And what they say is that on February 5th, 2014, you were telling your brother, Johnny Depp, to stop using cocaine, correct?
No, I wrote those words, but that's what I'm saying. I don't know that I was telling him to stop doing that. In context, it would be different. It could be a different scenario.
Well, let's take it word by word. Coke, when you wrote Coke, you meant cocaine, not the soft drink, right?
Yeah.
And when you wrote pills, you meant prescription pills, right?
Yeah.
So you were telling him on February 5th, 2014, to stop drinking, stop Coke, and stop pills, right?
I wrote the words.
And did you have any reason to believe when you wrote that Mr. Depp had been on a bender recently?
I don't recall writing this, so I don't recall the context of it. I understand that the words are there, but I don't recall the timing or the writing of it. I don't recall anything about it necessarily.
You weren't joking when you wrote that, right? It wasn't a joke, right?
I probably was not joking, but maybe I was repeating something that someone else told me to write.
You were telling your brother to stop drinking, stop cocaine, and stop pills because you believed that he had a problem with drinking cocaine and pills, correct?
I didn't believe he had the problem as much as someone else was trying to make me believe that he had the problem.
Did you have any reason to believe that Mr. Depp had been on a recent bender?
I didn't witness benders. I don't, you know what I mean? So I'm not involved in the benders.
Understood. I'm asking, at the time when you sent these 3 text messages on February 5th, 2014, did you have any reason to believe that Mr. Depp had been on a recent bender?
I couldn't tell you about February, whatever date that is back then, and what I would know at this moment.
Did you have any reason to be worried about Mr. Depp when you sent these texts?
Again, I don't know what was happening in life at that time. I don't recall that period, the dates. I don't recall I don't recall anything about that time. These texts, I know what the words are, but I don't know what the context is of them.
Right, and so I'm asking you a question as best I can, which was, when you sent these texts, did you have any reason to be worried about Mr. Depp's use of alcohol, cocaine, or pills?
Again, I don't recall the time period of sending these texts, so I don't know that I would have any reason at that time. I don't know.
Would you have sent the text if you didn't have a reason to be worried about his use of alcohol, cocaine, or pills?
I could send those 3 separate lines like that, 3 separate texts. I could do that if it was, there's different reasons that maybe I could do that. It doesn't mean That was me giving him a message.
Have you ever sent texts to anyone else to tell them to stop drinking, stop Coke, or stop pills before?
Again, I don't know that I'm telling him to stop drinking, stop Coke, and stop pills. That's what I'm saying. It's the context of this.
And I appreciate that, but that wasn't my question. My question was, have you ever sent texts to anyone else in your life telling them to stop drinking, stop Coke, or stop pills?
I don't believe I've ever told anybody to stop doing any of those things in a text message, but I also don't know that that's what I was doing here, is what I'm trying to say.
But you wrote those words to Mr. Depp, right?
I wrote those words.
And you didn't love the behavior that Mr. Depp was engaging in around this time frame, did you?
I don't know the time frame. I don't know what time frame you're actually referring to.
Well, in the days leading up on or around February 5th, 2014, you didn't love the behavior that Johnny Depp was engaging in, did you?
I don't recall anyone's behavior from February 2014. I don't recall February 2014.
Would it refresh your recollection perhaps to see other text messages that you sent on or around this time to determine whether or not you were worried about Mr. Depp?
If there's other context, I guess. I don't know.
Why don't we do this? Heather, can you please pull up Exhibit 210? Your Honor, may I approach?
All right.
Thank you. Ms. Dembrowski, do you recognize this document as a text message chain between you and Amber Heard on February 3rd, 2014?
Yes.
And you see the chain starts at about 5:20 p.m., right?
Yes.
And there's messages from Amber to you are the ones on the right, correct, in blue?
Yes.
And messages from you to Amber are the ones in gray on the left, right?
Yes.
And if you go, well, take a minute and just read that first page, please. Does this refresh your recollection about a text conversation you had with Amber on or about February 3rd, 2014?
Well, I can see this as our text exchange.
Okay. And does this refresh your recollection about concern that you may have had about the behavior that Mr. Depp was engaged in on or around that time?
Again,
I'll allow that question. Go ahead.
I'll ask it again, does this refresh your recollection about behavior that Mr. Depp may have been engaging in around that time?
I remember this period and what Amber was believing that he was doing. Yes, at this period.
Okay. But does this refresh your recollection about your worry and concern for your brother Johnny Depp around this time?
I still don't recall having a severe worry around this time.
Okay. Well, before you didn't recall having any worry. So does this at least refresh your recollection that you had some worry?
Honestly, I don't recall having a worry. I've had worries in the years, but I don't recall having a worry at this time. I don't recall it.
Okay. So did you have any reason to doubt what you were reading from Miss Heard in these texts?
To be honest, she would write things quite often or explain things quite often, and it's a bit more dramatic, maybe, than what we understood it to be, or maybe even sometimes the instances were different than what she was describing. So,
But in any event, this conversation that you had with Miss Heard gave you concern enough to tell your brother, stop coke, stop pills, stop booze, right?
No, I don't think it did.
It didn't. And I've asked this before, but we'll take a look at this. Is it true you didn't love the behavior he was engaging in around this time, right?
Again, I didn't witness a lot of the behavior that people are talking, that you guys are referencing. I didn't witness a lot of it.
Take a look at page 2,
Okay.
please. And just take a minute to read that, and then I'll have some questions about both of the pages.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What you had been told by Ms. Heard on the first 2 pages of these texts gave you concern about Mr. Depp's behavior and made you not love anything that he was engaging in behavior-wise around this time, right?
What I had heard from her in these texts, I didn't really love where life was at the time.
Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of these 2 pages in their entirety for the reasons that we discussed, both as impeachment of the witness.
All right, there are other statements in here that I do find as hearsay, so we can work with it. I'll reserve on that for this time, maybe, and we'll have other issues with it outside the presence of the jury, and we'll work on redactions, okay?
That sounds good. Can I ask her questions just about her language?
Okay.
And then we can work on redactions?
Yeah, yes, sir. Okay, yes, sir.
On the first page, Your Honor, or I'm sorry, on the first page, Ms. Dembrowski, you write, "Where are the kids?" Why did you write that?
I don't
Yes,
know.
sir.
I don't know. I mean, I remember they asked me that at the deposition. I'm not sure.
You wrote that because you had concerns about where Mr. Depp's kids were at this time, right?
Well, if she was saying he wasn't home, I was asking where the kids were.
Right. Because you were concerned for the kids' well-being, particularly when Mr. Depp was in this sort of state, correct?
No, I was curious about where the kids were if he wasn't home.
Were you ever concerned about the impact on the kids of Mr. Depp's drug use and alcohol use?
No.
So when you wrote, "Where are the kids?" you had no concern for their actual well-being. Is that right?
The concern, it's not that kind of concern. She's saying he's not home. I was wondering where the kids were so that they weren't alone.
When you wrote her on page 2, "Do you want to come to office to talk?" you wrote that because you were concerned about what was going on with Mr. Depp at that point, right?
No, actually, I wrote that so that she could come to the office so that we could talk
Right.
about all of it,
All of what?
of her text.
Your Honor, I'd ask for permission to publish the bottom text on page 2 that I think,
It's not up here. You just mean her text.
sorry. And I guess while she's pulling that up, I'd move for partial admission of Exhibit 210 with redactions to be.
I'm gonna reserve on that.
Okay.
All right, that's. All right, I'm still gonna reserve on the admission of it, so I'm not gonna show it to the jury at this time, okay?
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you. But you can ask your questions about it.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. When you wrote Miss Heard on February 3rd, 2014 at 5:42 p.m., Ms. Dembrowski, "Worry about everything," you were telling her to worry about everything and all the types of behavior that Mr. Depp was engaging in at that time, right?
I was not telling her to worry about anything. That's the way I wrote that. Sounds like I say I worry about everything.
You're saying that you're worrying about everything? Is that right?
Yes, as a whole.
Okay, so in contrast to what you testified a few minutes ago, you actually were very worried around this time frame, correct?
I was worried about what life was. That's what I had said.
And the life that you were referring to here, what was going on in life was Mr. Depp's drug and alcohol abuse, correct?
What was going on in life was someone who constantly wanted to point out some sort of drug and alcohol abuse.
Is that unfair for a spouse not to want their husband to abuse drugs and alcohol?
It's not unfair at all.
So was that a negative to you that Miss Heard didn't love that?
I'm sorry?
Was that a negative to you that Miss Heard didn't love Mr. Depp's drug and alcohol abuse? Was that unreasonable of her?
To me, it was exaggerated is the problem, so.
It was exaggerated. But you testified that you personally have no personal knowledge of your brother doing cocaine.
I never saw him do it, no.
Okay. But you had enough concern to text him, stop doing coke, stop the pills, and stop the drinking, correct?
No, I really don't think that's what I was doing with him.
And what were you telling? You weren't talking about the Super Bowl, right? You were talking about drinking.
I
Coke and
understand,
drugs
I
and
understand.
pills.
But the way it's written, and I know my writing, the way it's written, I don't feel like what I was doing was me giving him an order to do that. I wouldn't typically do that. So
Recommending-
there's other context somewhere that, for that.
Right, and that's what we're trying to explore is what is that context? Because you're very direct in those texts that the jury just looked at. Stop the booze, stop the pills, stop the coke. So if you weren't telling him to stop the booze, stop the pills, and stop the coke, what were you telling him?
I could have been telling him that, because I've had this conversation before, I could have been telling him, that in order to make her not constantly accusing, this is what she would need.
Right. You didn't write those words in your text, though, right?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And when you said in the February 3rd text message exchange with Miss Heard, I don't love any of it. I really want to be able to talk with him. That was you expressing concern about Mr. Depp's drinking and drug use, correct?
That was me expressing concern about what life was. And there was arguments all the time, and it felt like there was just constant unpleasantness.
Right. And would it be unfair? Well, let me ask it this way. That unpleasantness, to your knowledge, was caused in part, at least, by your brother's drug and alcohol abuse, right?
I don't know that.
Did you ever reach your own conclusion that your brother had a problem with drugs and alcohol?
I knew my brother was drinking.
I'm
but
sorry.
I knew my brother was drinking. But in terms of like drugs, honestly, I have only one medication that I really knew of that, was an issue for him.
And what was that?
I don't remember the name of the medication. It was a prescription medication.
What was it?
It was like a pain medication that he had been taking for a long time.
And that was what you were referring to when you said stop pills, was prescription pain medication, correct?
Again, I wasn't necessarily referring to anything in particular. I know I wrote those words. I don't know the context of the words.
Okay. But in any event, you don't dispute that on February 5th, 20, whatever date that was, on February 5th, 2014, you wrote to your brother, stop drinking, stop coke, stop pills, right?
I wrote those words, but I don't know the context of the words.
Now, February 2014 wasn't the first time that you had communications with Ms. Heard relating to concerns about drug and alcohol abuse, right? By Mr. Depp, correct?
I don't know.
Heather, if you could pull up Exhibit 163, please.
What's the exhibit number, I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor, 163. While she's pulling that up, Ms. Dembrowski, let me ask you this. You knew that Mr. Depp's drug and alcohol problem was affecting his relationship with Ms. Heard, right?
I knew that she would say that. I mean, I knew that she would say that she had issues with, him with drugs and alcohol.
And you knew from those communications that it was negatively impacting their relationship, right?
I knew that she would write me about them, you know, and I knew that she would. I know that she would, you know, try to talk about them. But, and I know that she would say that they were negatively impacting. I don't know that that was the whole situation that they had going on. To be honest, though,
Well, you didn't disbelieve her when she told you that, right?
when she told me,
What you just testified to, that drinking and drugs were negatively impacting their relationship. You didn't disbelieve her, right?
oh, I didn't necessarily think it was true. No.
You didn't think it was true?
That it was negatively impacting the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily think it was 100% true. No.
Well, you just said true and then 100% true. So
True.
I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to figure out where you're going with this. Or is it your testimony today that you never believed Miss Heard when she would talk to you about Johnny's drugs and drinking?
No, I think you're taking it to an extreme.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm sorry if I am. So just explain to me what is. That's not your testimony. So.
I think she exaggerated things quite a bit.
But you tried to help Amber deal with Mr. Depp's drugs and drinking, correct?
I tried to make sure that I was helpful to Amber as best I could. Yes.
If you can look at the document in front of you, Exhibit 163, please. This is a text exchange between you and Ms. Heard on March 22nd, 2013, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And do you remember earlier you testified about being present during the filming of a documentary about Keith Richards?
Yes.
This was right around that time frame, correct?
I don't know.
Do you recall when that was?
I don't recall the dates.
And actually, one thing I wanted to ask you about that while we're at it is you testified earlier about not seeing cuts or bruises on her face. You remember that? Or do you have no knowledge whether she was wearing makeup or not that night, right?
I don't recall if she was wearing makeup or not. She typically did not.
Okay. And you weren't specifically looking for cuts or bruises because you suspected that Mr. Depp had abused her, right?
I would have no reason to look for cuts or bruises, but I would think if they were there, I would see them.
Okay. So if you look at page 1, Exhibit 163, and Your Honor, I'd move for permission to publish.
No, Your Honor, we object.
I'm going to sustain that objection.
I figured you would. But
Okay,
can
okay.
I do the same thing and ask her about her words to Ms. Heard, and then we can reserving the right to publish it to the jury
You
depending
can
on
ask
Your
if
Honor's
it
ruling.
refreshes her memory about
Right.
the conversations you're trying to
Sure.
discuss, yes.
Thank you.
But
So, Ms. Dembrowski, do you recall having a conversation with Ms. Heard on or about March 22nd, 2013, in which Ms. Heard was expressing concerns to you about Mr. Depp's behavior?
No, I don't recall dates, so no.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and take a look at this document, please? And let's start with, just tell me when you're done with page 1, please.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Ms. Dembrowski, I think that's you on the screen, which is okay if you want to mark it up.
we can clear it up. We got it.
I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Doing their own redactions.
Okay.
Okay, I've read it.
Okay, so When you texted Miss Heard, well, first of all, does this refresh your recollection about a conversation that you and Miss Heard had on March 22nd, 2013, relating to Miss Heard's concerns about Mr. Depp's behavior?
It really doesn't, but I see it here.
But you don't dispute that it is a conversation that the two of you had?
This is a text exchange between the two of us, yes.
Okay. When you wrote, "Don't be sorry," exclamation point, I am not completely sure if what is going on or why, but I don't love what it is. What did you mean by that?
I'm not 100% sure. I believe I probably meant, once again, how life was.
Right. Life, including Mr. Depp's conduct toward my client, Amber Heard, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you wrote, "It is sad and I'm sorry you guys are going through this. I'm here if there's anything I can do." You were talking about you were sad that they were going through the challenges that drugs and alcohol on behalf of Mr. Depp were posing to their relationship. Correct?
Yeah, I'll allow it if she can answer.
I don't think that I'm saying that I'm sad about that. I'm saying that I'm sad, about whatever it is that, that they're going through, but I don't know exactly what it is that they're going through.
Right. And right, two texts underneath that, Ms. Heard tells you what they're going through, right?
She does go into about what they have going on.
And then below that, you say, "I think with anyone in that place, confrontation unfortunately doesn't help, and sometimes conversations can seem like confrontations." Do you see that? Mm-hmm. Were you suggesting to Ms. Heard that she shouldn't have a conversation with Mr. Depp about what drugs and alcohol did to him because it could seem like a confrontation?
No, I was not suggesting that at all.
What did you mean by it?
Honestly, what I was trying to do is trying to Amber, Miss Heard, she could be very, very vocal. And so what I was trying to do was, if they were having a conversation, if it wasn't going well, I was trying to tell her that, maybe, sometimes conversations, if you're vocal, really loud, they're more confrontational. Like, just to, whatever it is, just have a nice, easy conversation.
Okay, well, let's just go to I just want to look at one more text on the top of the next page, Heather, please. When you write Miss Heard on March 22nd, 2013, you say, "Disagreeing, reasoning, nudging, all can seem like confrontations. I am not sure of the volume or when some is likely to wear off?" Question mark. Mm-hmm. First of all, when you were talking about volume or when some is likely to wear off, you're talking about drugs or alcohol, correct?
She said in the text prior, right?
Yeah,
I'm asking what,
no, I understand. I'll sustain the objection.
and I'm asking what you're referring to, without referring to Ms. Heard's text prior, when you say, "I'm not sure of the volume or when some is likely to wear off." What are you referring to?
I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say is, she had all kinds of things that she said in the text prior. I'm referring to, like, volume of, even just voices, even you can see where I say, like, the nudging and all of that. There was a certain way that you learned to try to talk with Amber to keep things calm.
And when you said when, I thought she was.
All right, finish your, Mr. Chu, that's fine. Thank you, I appreciate it. I understand, I'll let her finish her answer. That's fine, Mr. Chu. Go ahead.
Thank you. There was a certain way that, ultimately you learn to talk to Amber, to sort of keep things calm. So you would pacify her. You would sort of, just go along with all of her conversations, whatever, so that we would placate her all the time to keep things calm. That's what we did.
And so when you said disagreeing, reasoning, nudging, all can seem like confrontations, were you telling Ms. Heard that she shouldn't voice any concerns about her significant other's drug or alcohol abuse?
Voice any concerns to who?
To him. That she shouldn't nudge him about it or try to reason with him about drug and alcohol abuse or his behavior? Is that what you were saying, that she shouldn't do that because it might seem like a confrontation?
No, she was more confrontational. She was much more confrontational, always confrontational. And I was trying to say that all of these things can be confrontational and maybe take it down a notch.
Okay, so you shouldn't disagree or reason or nudge. Is that what you were saying?
No, in the way that I know that it would be done. She was much more. She wasn't there wasn't a comforting conversation.
I'm sorry, Bernard. Were you done with your answer?
I think so.
Okay. Or do you believe that disagreeing with someone or trying to reason with them or nudging them justifies them getting abused?
All right. As to foundation, I'll sustain as to foundation if you want.
Okay. Do you have any have you ever disagreed with or reasoned with or nudged anyone in anything in your life?
This is hypothetical.
All right.
I mean, these are the words that she wrote.
It's late in the day.
I know.
These are the words that she wrote to my client. Disagreeing, reasoning, nudging, all can seem like confrontations.
I'll allow the question.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Have you ever disagreed or reasoned or nudged with someone in your life?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that doing any of those three things would justify your being abused?
Your Honor, this is.
I'll sustain the
Withdraw.
Okay, thank you. All right. How much more do you have? Probably
A little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah,
Okay, since it's
probably
5
an hour.
o'clock. All right, about an hour. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, since it's 5 o'clock, we're going to go ahead and release you for the day. Okay. Just a reminder, as always, please don't do any outside research. Don't talk to anybody about this case. Don't look at the news. Don't watch anything on TV. Don't read the papers, and and just have a good, calm, peaceful night. Okay, and we'll see you tomorrow bright and early. Okay. Thank you. Well, hard copy of 210. All right, Ms. Dembrowski, just a reminder that you are still under oath and you're still testifying. So since you're still testifying, you can't have any discussions with anybody to include Mr. Depp's attorneys or his legal team, okay? All right, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. All right, if you could leave the courtroom, I just have a few
And
housekeeping matters I
that
need to take
includes
care of.
Mr. Depp as well, correct?
Correct, and Mr. Depp, yes, anybody, okay?
Thank
Just
you.
don't talk about your testimony to anybody, okay? All right, that's fine. If you have a seat outside the courtroom, I just have a few housekeeping matters I want to take care of. You can sit down, it's okay. If you want to stand up, that's fine. I just want to. Well, let me finish this one issue first, okay? I'd appreciate it. All right, going back to the text, so on 163, are you still trying to admit that into evidence? That was the last one.
Yes,
All right, there's an objection to that. Okay, good. All right. Yes, sir. Anything further to say on 163?
Well, I think, yes, two things. At a minimum, Ms. Dembrowski's text should be affirmed because those aren't hearsay. Even if we have to redact out
Right.
all of Ms. Hurd's text, which if that's what your Honor's ruling is, we can. The problem is, and the reason I think it's not hearsay, is that it's impeachment under 607A7.
I understand your impeachment issue, and I understand that, and that we'll go back to 210, and I think there's an issue with impeachment there. But here I don't see any impeachment basis to have the extrinsic evidence in. You got the testimony in, but I don't see a basis to have the extrinsic evidence in.
And I would still ask that her texts come in, not through impeachment. They're not hearsay. They're probative to this case that she's expressing concern. And even if the jury can't
since you don't have the context, I'm not going to allow them in, so I'm going to deny, I'm going to sustain the objection to 163. As far as 210, the only impeachment basis was when she testified that she didn't recall anything about a bender or him being on a bender. So I think for impeachment purposes, just the only part that comes in is the, as far as Ms. Heard's text, is the JD is on a bender, and not even the last part of the, that's it, okay? Everything else would have to be redacted.
Sure it does. 60787.
I'm going to allow that, just that one part. That one part of everything else gets redacted. As far as her text, Ms. Dembrowski's text can come in, except you have to get rid of her identifying information as far as her phone number, okay?
And just to be clear, so we don't.
That's it. Okay, I understand. Okay, all right, that's fine, noted. Thank you.
You want it redacted after the word offender, not the last two words.
That's exactly right. Not the last two words and not the sentence above it and not any of the sentences below it or any of the other texts, but Ms. Dembrowski's text come in, but you got to just take out her phone number for me. Okay? So if you can give me, you owe me that, and I'll allow the redacted one into evidence, and you can owe that to me tomorrow, okay? And you also owe me 214 tomorrow too, correct?
Yes, Your Honor. One, on that one, can we, if we redact we only show the last two columns, if we redact the personal identifiers, can we then show the other columns that correspond to the text that you
That, as long as the personal identifiers was what the objection was. So if you could do that for just the 4.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And get rid of the others. Okay, all right. All right, that's all I had. Yes, ma'am, you had something. Okay.